Good morning from my favourite place in the world. But I have lots of favourite places because we have such a beautiful world. But this is my little place where, when I was so broken, I didn't know what to do. I had nowhere to go. And I had a beautiful vision of what I think is called a Shekinah sun. And it healed me. And it gave me the strength to bring out a lifelong study of my looking at why Jesus Christ was and is and will be the greatest healer of all time, and also looking at scripture and healing. And I was studying whether muscle response testing in kinesiology, a technique that I practice and have helped many people with, as do others, and proving that it's not divination and thereby against God. So I conclude that the positive strong muscle test in the clear affirms the parasympathetic nervous system where love resides, because love is not a cortisol. There's a little bird standing on a rock there. I'm not sure what it is. See if I can zoom in on it. I've come down. There's a sort of seat, a cushiony thing I'm sitting on. Oh, can we see him? You can just see his legs. There he is. Not sure what he is. There. So, lifelong work. I never planned to write poetry. And this is my third CD now of poetry. So, doggy growling. And it's looking at the things that cause hurt and pain, betrayal. So anything that triggers the stress response in the body. Because Psalm 146, I think, or 148, it says we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And so fear is our sort of default for survival, the fright, fight, flight syndrome. And it triggers and goes first and causes the adrenaline, which of course feels great at first, but it's not lasting. Then that needs stimulants to keep that feeling, to keep that sort of. But it's a false surge. It doesn't last. And what part of that stress response is that you then, when you've got out of danger, you then sleep, rest, recover, and reason and process. Well, what went wrong there? How did I survive? And the reasoning and conscious processing will come back, because what happens with the stress response is that frontal brain cortex is shut off, and then you can't reason and negotiate and become conscious. So so it's all about being able to maintain that point of reason, keep the forebrain open, and attain to the endorphin love, because the glory of God is about the endorphins. And as I say in the poem, the end is the beginning of the word endorphin. So anyway, I'm just going to, because I haven't, my phone's always full up. I'm just going to share a poem this morning. So it's the 27th of April today, yeah. Just been looking on YouTube, and they're talking about a second Passover, and there's just so many signs in the heavens, and surely our world needs healing. It needs healing. It needs consciousness of the stress, of the things that cause the hurts and pains. And they're not always conscious. So hopefully this work will help enlighten for love's light to prevail, and to people be able to overcome the stress responses. And there's lots of techniques that can help to do that, and just looking after ourselves with complementary therapies. And our body's a massive sensory being, and healthy touch is a really good thing. Massage is so wonderful. It's so therapeutic. When I was at college, we used to call it the feel-good factor, but of course that is the endorphin release. So, life can be heaven on earth here. We're allowed to. Aromatherapy is amazing. Aromatherapy is in the Bible. Good organic, natural living, the herbs. But what we mustn't do is we mustn't pollute. We mustn't pollute our planet or our bodies. This system where there's so many chemicals in foods. Some foods are hardly classed as foods anymore, and then they advertise them heavily, make people sick, sell the drugs, and people are suffering. And that's not meant to. Life isn't meant to be like that. God hasn't designed life to be like that. And even if you just look along here, there's like masses of sea beet. But anyway, I'm going to read to you. Oh gosh, I'm running out of time. Right, I have to be quick. This is called A Light View, a reflection of time, ADCE. So there once were dark times, very dark times, when we were taught not to look at the sun, moon and stars, when they thought that crystal healing was occult and new age. There once was anxious times, where we were tempted to turn away from the sun and that Christmas was just once a year. Those were dark times, very dark times. Men's doctrines in churches lost their healing light. Men who did not know that the chakras glow light from Christ's love. Churches thought gemstones were new age and anti to Christ. Those were confused dark times. Sin, betrayal and abuse condoned by 100 Hail Marys. Forgiveness from a childless men. And they said crystals were anti to Christ. Oh! Crystal gemstones that Jesus Christ says the stones will cry out for the peace from Zion. Jerusalem, for New Jerusalem, for heaven on earth as promised. The gemstones cry out for the heavenly peace of love of Christ. For healing all nations, where we will learn abuse and war no more. Where the light of Zion will arise and shine brightly. Those were dark times, very dark times, when they thought healing, chakras and crystals were anti to Christ. And I saw a new heaven. Everything real is invisible.